Hi everyone, Matt James here. Welcome to another guitar tutorial, and in today's video I'm just going to give you 3 tips for how to play bar chords and get started with bar chords. If you're a beginner and you get into that point where you're like, I'm doing alright with my open chords and I really want to start being able to play bar chords, particularly for that dreaded F chord, which is the bane of every beginner's life. I know myself how long it took me to play when I was starting out, and yeah, bar chords are just really difficult. So without further ado, I'll jump straight into my 3 tips for what I hope will help you if you're just wanting to improve and get a bit better at learning bar chords, especially if you're feeling frustrated. So my first tip is all to do with wrist position. I find quite a few people I speak to who are really struggling with bar chords. Their wrists are sort of all the way back, like here, or even just here, like towards sort of like the back of the neck, which isn't a great position. So I'd recommend when you're playing bar chords, you really want your wrist basically to be sort of underneath the neck. You don't want it to be too far, you don't want to be quite as far as that, but you just want your wrist to essentially be directly underneath the neck, so that there's plenty of space for your finger to stretch across the frets, because obviously that's what you're going to be doing with your bar chords. You're going to be stretching your finger across all of the fret. And yeah, it sounds like an obvious thing, but actually I see a lot of people who are really struggling because their wrists are too far back and they're really struggling to stretch across the fret. So that is my first tip. Make sure your wrist is in a decent position where there's plenty of space for you to stretch your finger out. Okay, and the second tip, which isn't the most thrilling thing to do in the world, but I found when I was learning bar chords it really helped me, and that's to literally just practice putting your finger, so your first finger, your index finger, across any fret. Doesn't matter which. For the purposes of this, I'm going to use the 5th fret. I'm not having any of my other fingers playing any other chords. I'm just stretching my first finger across and just practice playing across the frets and getting all the notes to ring out like that. And you can even practice strumming with it as well. You can even practice changing frets as well if that helps you. But I would just recommend just playing your first finger across the frets, just to get used to being able to do it, because it's difficult at first. It will really hurt your finger. Playing bar chords is tough, and unfortunately there's no easy way out. It is just practice, and you've just got to get your finger used to being able to press down on all of the strings across all the frets, and that takes time. But rather than trying to do all the chord and finding that frustrating and hard, just get your first finger used to playing across the frets. And hopefully over time you will find that you'll develop the strength. I know it certainly did work for me. And then the third and final tip I'm going to give you for bar chords is I would recommend practicing little but often. So as I say, bar chords are frustrating. A lot of people do just find them really difficult, and it's because they are difficult. So I would recommend, even if it's just 5-10 minutes a day, just practice just doing that. Whatever it is that you feel like you need to practice with your bar chords, but just practice 5 or 10 minutes, but ideally every day, or if you can most other days. I know people are busy, but it wants to be, I wouldn't recommend doing like, oh, I'm going to have an hour of learning bar chords and by the end of it I'll have them down, because I find in my experience that doesn't really work. You find you just get frustrated because you can't do it and you just get bored, and so then you won't do it for a while. Whereas if you're doing it 5-10 minutes most days, even if you feel like you're not getting anywhere, what you are doing is developing the strength. And it's almost a bit like driving a car. When you learn to drive a car for ages, you can't get it, and then suddenly it just clicks into place and you can do it. And that's what happened to me with bar chords. I was doing this for ages and I was trying and it just wasn't happening, and then one day when I tried it again, I was able to do it. It was because I'd been working at it slowly but surely and hadn't been doing it for like one long sitting. I find that doesn't work. I say everyone's different, but that definitely worked for me. So those are my 3 tips. That definitely helped me when I was learning bar chords. I'd be fascinated to know what you think, if you've watched this video and then you've gone away and tried these tips and maybe after a while it has helped, or if there's anything else that's helped you. Do please let me know. But those are my 3 tips for learning bar chords. I do hope that proves useful for you if you're just starting out trying to learn them. As ever, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel if you like what you see, because it does really help me out. But yes, I do say I hope the content was useful for you, and I will see you again in another video.